The border outpost feels like the end of the world. Night presses down hard, swallowing the landscape in darkness broken only by floodlights flickering through a swirling snow and dust storm. Captain Daniel Reeves moves through it with mechanical precision, boots crunching against frozen gravel, rifle steady against his chest. His face is calm, disciplined, trained, but exhaustion lives in the shadows beneath his eyes. The radio crackles with routine military chatter, coordinates and status reports echoing through the silence, yet every sound only reinforces how alone he truly is. This place doesn't forgive weakness. One mistake here doesn't just end careers, it ends lives. Daniel pauses at the perimeter fence, scanning the horizon when nothing moves, when nothing should move. The storm howls like a warning, isolating him from the world he left behind. In this moment, he is nothing but duty, sealed off from emotion, from comfort, from home. Inside the command shelter, warmth feels artificial. Daniel removes his gloves when his secure phone vibrates, an unexpected notification from home. Emily. His posture softens almost imperceptibly as he opens the delayed video message. Her face appears, smiling, familiar, comforting, until the image stutters. The video cuts mid-sentence. Before he can process it, another notification arrives. A misrouted file. A private clip accidentally forwarded by a fellow soldier syncing devices. Daniel opens it, and the world shifts. Emily is there again, but this time she's laughing freely, standing in Daniel's own living room. A man's arm, confident, possessive, wraps around her waist. Jason Cole. A name Daniel knows too well. The sound drops out in Daniel's head. His face doesn't change, but his breathing does. Slow, controlled, dangerous. He doesn't delete the video. He saves it. Every frame. Every second. Proof. Daniel understands the cost of emotion here. One lapse in judgment could get someone killed, someone's son, someone's father. Outside, the storm rages, uncaring, relentless, just like the war around him. Inside, something far more dangerous is happening in silence. Rage claws at his chest, betrayal burns behind his ribs, but he locks it down with years of discipline. No confrontation. No messages. No questions. He returns the phone to his pocket as if it weighs nothing, though it feels heavier than his rifle. His men need him steady. Alive. Focused. Daniel steps back into the night, taking his position as if nothing has changed. But everything has. As he watches the horizon, his voice barely escapes his lips, swallowed by the wind. Not angry. Not broken. Certain. I'll finish my duty first, he whispers. Then, colder. Sharper. Then I'll come home. The promise isn't reconciliation. It's reckoning. Daniel Reeves grew up learning what happens when loyalty fails. His childhood home was loud, fractured, unpredictable, promises made and broken without apology. Chaos shaped him, and he ran from it the moment he could. The army wasn't just a career choice, it was salvation. Structure. Order. A code that made sense when family never did. In uniform, loyalty wasn't optional, it was sacred. Daniel learned to measure his worth by discipline, by how much pain he could carry without complaint. When he met Emily during a long-distance courtship, he treated love the same way he treated service, with commitment, endurance, and responsibility. He didn't marry for romance, he married for permanence. Marriage, to Daniel, was a mission, something you protect, defend, and complete, even when it hurts. He believed feelings fade, but loyalty should never waver. That belief became both his strength and his blind spot. Emily Reeves didn't fall out of love suddenly, she faded slowly. As a former nurse, she was used to being needed, to being seen. At first, being an army wife filled her with pride. She told people stories about Daniel with a smile that felt real. But pride doesn't keep you warm at night. The deployments stretched longer. The video calls grew quieter. Daniel was always exhausted, always controlled, always somewhere else. Emily learned to swallow her needs because she didn't want to be another burden. She never learned how to ask for emotional intimacy without feeling guilty. Loneliness didn't arrive as temptation, it arrived as invisibility. When Jason Cole entered her life, he didn't rush. He listened. He remembered details. He validated feelings Emily had buried for years. To him, she wasn't a duty or an obligation, she was seen. Jason had crossed lines before, but Emily didn't see danger. She saw relief. And relief is powerful when you're starving. There were never screaming matches. No slammed doors. No dramatic ultimatums. That's what made the distance deadly. Daniel spoke in reassurances, not confessions. Emily replied with smiles, not truths. Their video calls were full of pauses, moments where something needed to be said but wasn't. Duty demanded Daniel's silence. Loneliness demanded Emily's. Between them grew an unspoken understanding. Don't add stress, don't complain, don't break the illusion. Loyalty and loneliness stood on opposite sides of the marriage, quietly eroding it from within. Jason's presence didn't create the fracture, it slipped into it. Silence became the slow poison, dripping into every conversation, every night spent apart. By the time betrayal took form, the marriage was already hollowed out. Not dead, just empty. And emptiness doesn't scream for help. It waits. That is the tragedy at the heart of their story. No villain shouting, only people choosing quiet until quiet chose for them. Daniel does not rage. He investigates. Late at night, between patrol shifts, he sits under dim red command lights, scrolling through records that were never meant to feel this personal. Bank statements show unfamiliar withdrawals, small at first, then confident. Call logs reveal patterns, numbers dialed late at night, calls that disappear when he's on duty. Home security access logs are the final blow. Entries at hours when the house should be empty. A key code he never shared. The realization hits quietly, almost clinically. Jason hasn't just visited, he's been living there. Sleeping in Daniel's bed. Drinking from his mugs. Wearing the illusion of a life Daniel is defending thousands of miles away. Each file Daniel saves is another nail sealing something shut inside him. This is no longer suspicion or heartbreak. It's documentation. Proof. The moment love stops asking questions and starts preparing for consequences. The military teaches control above all else. Daniel knows the code by heart. Emotional instability is a liability. A compromised officer puts everyone at risk. His hands clench as the storm rages outside the outpost, mirroring the chaos he refuses to show. One impulsive call. One confrontation. That's all it would take to implode his career and possibly cost lives. He imagines Emily's voice, Jason's excuses, his own anger spilling out unchecked. But Daniel has survived worse by enduring. He weighs his options with brutal clarity. Explode now and destroy everything he's built, or swallow the pain and plan. This choice hardens him. Silence becomes strategy. Endurance becomes weaponized. Daniel chooses patience, not forgiveness, not denial, but preparation. The war has taught him this truth. The man who reacts first loses. From this moment on, Daniel is no longer just a husband betrayed. He is a man in control of timing. Emily's voice sounds calm when she calls. Casual. Practiced. She says she's thinking of visiting her sister, needing a little space. Daniel listens carefully, recognizing every line now that he knows the truth. He responds evenly, almost gently. Do what you need to do. I trust you. The words taste bitter, but they work. Days later, alerts begin appearing. Notifications he never expected to dread. Funds moved. Documents signed. Power of attorney exercised. Emily uses the authority Daniel gave her as an act of love to reshape his life without him. This is no longer just emotional betrayal. It's legal. Financial. Structural. She's dismantling him while he stands guard at the edge of a war zone. Daniel watches it happen in real time, unable to intervene without revealing himself. This is the point of no return. Love has become liability. Silence has consequences. And when Daniel finally comes home, it won't be for answers, it will be for justice. From the outside, Captain Daniel Reeves is flawless. Missions completed without error. Patrol reports submitted early. Orders followed with textbook precision. At the border, nothing about him suggests fracture. Inside, everything does. He learns how to shut emotions down completely, folding pain into the same mental compartment as fear and fatigue. At night, when the outpost finally goes quiet, Daniel writes letters he will never send, pages filled with questions he refuses to ask, confessions he will never speak. He deletes them each morning before duty, leaving no trace. Suppression becomes survival. The war zone rewards silence, and Daniel adapts too well. He stops checking the time back home. Stops expecting honesty. Every flawless performance is a mask that keeps him alive while slowly hollowing him out. The audience sees the cost, A man functioning perfectly while breaking invisibly, one unsent letter at a time, back home. Emily and Jason stop hiding. Their closeness hardens into routine. Shared errands, shared smiles, shared explanations to neighbors that sound rehearsed but convincing. Jason speaks calmly, confidently, always framing himself as practical, rational, concerned. He urges Emily to divorce Daniel quietly, to protect herself, to document abandonment. At first, Emily resists. Then the loneliness speaks louder than guilt. She repeats the lies often enough that they begin to feel true. Daniel isn't there. Daniel doesn't call enough. Daniel chose duty over marriage. Jason never raises his voice. He doesn't need to. He offers clarity when Emily feels confused, direction when she feels weak. Slowly, Emily signs what Jason places in front of her. Not because she's cruel, but because believing she's justified hurts less than admitting she's wrong. Love doesn't end in flames here. It erodes through repetition. The pressure reaches Daniel from both sides at once. Military investigators flag irregular financial activity tied to his name. Accounts he didn't touch. Documents he didn't sign. Suddenly, he's under scrutiny for crimes he didn't commit. He confides in Sergeant Marcus Hale, the only man he trusts enough to speak freely. Marcus listens, jaw tight, then says the words Daniel doesn't want to hear. If you don't control this, it'll control you. Before Daniel can act, the final blow lands. Jason files a report suggesting Daniel is emotionally unstable. Emily signs it. The implication is devastating. An officer compromised by mental distress. Daniel's return home is delayed pending review. Stranded. Silenced. Framed. He stands at the border once more, staring into the storm, realizing the war he's fighting now isn't across the fence. It's against a system that believes paperwork over truth. And is losing ground. Daniel returns home without warning. No calls, no messages, no chance for anyone to prepare. The house smells unfamiliar. Another man's cologne layered over memories of his own life. He steps inside quietly, boots echoing against hardwood floors he once polished himself. In the living room, Jason stands relaxed, wearing Daniel's clothes like they belong to him, pouring coffee into Daniel's mug. The sight lands harder than the battlefield ever did. Emily freezes when she sees Daniel, color draining from her face, breath caught somewhere between guilt and fear. Jason turns slowly, confident at first, posture casual, almost amused. He expects shouting, violence, breakdown. What he gets instead is silence. Daniel looks at them both with the calm of a man who has already survived the worst. The power in the room shifts instantly. This isn't a husband discovering betrayal. This is a man who already knows everything, and came home anyway. Daniel speaks softly, deliberately, forcing Jason to listen. He lays everything out without emotion. Recorded calls, financial transfers, false statements filed under Emily's name. Jason's confidence begins to crack, not from anger but from precision. Daniel isn't accusing, he's presenting evidence. Then the twist lands. Daniel reveals what Jason never knew he'd uncovered. Patterns across multiple bases, multiple spouses, the same emotional script repeated over years. Jason wasn't in love. He was harvesting loneliness. Emily's world collapses in real time as she realizes she was never special, just convenient, timed, and useful. Every comforting word Jason ever spoke now sounds rehearsed. Emily's knees buckle as the truth reframes every memory. Jason tries to interrupt, to explain, but explanations die when lies lose their audience. This isn't revenge through force. It's annihilation through truth. Emily collapses into sobs, grief ripping through her as shame finally finds its voice. Jason steps back, eyes darting, calculating escape. He moves toward the door, but it opens before he reaches it. Military police enter, controlled and efficient, responding to a report Daniel filed long before he ever came home. Jason's bravado dissolves completely as hands close around his arms. Emily looks to Daniel, searching for comfort, forgiveness, anything. Daniel doesn't move. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't touch her. He watches as the truth finishes its work. This is the final power shift. Not dominance through anger, but through restraint. Daniel stands still while everything around him collapses. The lies, the illusions, the false narratives. He doesn't need to say a word. Justice speaks for him now. And in that silence, the audience understands. The most terrifying man in the room is the one who no longer needs to react. The aftermath unfolds without drama, and that is its power. Jason Cole is arrested on charges that finally name what he did: fraud, coercion, manipulation of vulnerable spouses. In court filings, his pattern becomes undeniable, not just against Emily, but against others who trusted him when they were alone. Emily faces the quieter consequences. Divorce proceedings strip away illusions, replacing them with accountability. Financial penalties follow, not as punishment, but as correction. There are no speeches, no public takedowns, no viral humiliation. Daniel never seeks applause. He provides evidence, answers questions, and then steps back. Justice moves forward without his voice needing to rise. For the first time in the story, the system works as it should. The audience feels relief, not triumph. This isn't about winning. It's about balance being restored. The absence of revenge becomes the victory. Daniel is given opportunities to speak, to expose, to humiliate. He declines them all. He doesn't correct every rumor or rewrite every lie. He refuses interviews. He refuses to turn Emily into a villain for public consumption. This restraint confuses people who expect vengeance. But Daniel understands something now that he didn't before. Destruction doesn't heal, it just spreads damage. He allows the divorce to proceed cleanly, legally, without spectacle. In private, he grieves what the marriage was meant to be, not what it became. By choosing dignity, Daniel reclaims authorship over his own story. He no longer needs to prove strength through endurance or silence. He proves it through boundaries. Walking away doesn't make him weak. It makes him free. For the first time since his childhood, Daniel chooses peace not as avoidance, but as intention. Healing isn't immediate. Daniel enters therapy with the same discipline he once gave to Judy. He learns to speak without fear of collapse, to name emotions without surrendering control. He reconnects with himself outside uniform. Long walks, quiet mornings, moments without orders or objectives. Vulnerability no longer feels like weakness. It feels like clarity. Strength, he realizes, was never just endurance. Endurance without boundaries nearly destroyed him. Real strength is knowing when to say no, when to walk away, when to protect your inner life as fiercely as you protect others. Daniel doesn't emerge hardened. He emerges balanced. The audience sees a man no longer defined by betrayal or service alone, but by self-respect. The story ends not with triumph, but with grounding. A man who finally understands that loyalty to himself is not betrayal, it's survival. Daniel stands at the border again, but everything feels different. The night that once swallowed him whole has given way to sunrise, soft light stretching slowly across the frozen ground. The same fence, the same outpost. Yet the weight in his chest is lighter. He takes out his phone and opens the last unsent letter, the one written during the worst night, when anger, grief, and love blurred together. The words are raw, unfinished, meant for a woman who no longer exists in the way he remembered her. He reads it once, calmly, without bitterness. There is no need to preserve pain anymore. With a single deliberate motion, Daniel deletes the letter. Not in anger. Not in denial. In acceptance. The past no longer needs to follow him. Around him, the outpost awakens, radios crackling, boots moving, life continuing. This time, Daniel is present. Whole. Ready, inside the locker room, the space is quiet except for the faint hum of fluorescent lights. Daniel removes his wedding ring slowly, turning it once between his fingers. It's scratched, worn down by years of duty, distance, and silence. This ring once represented permanence, sacrifice, belief. Now it represents a chapter that ended, not in failure, but in truth. Daniel places it inside his locker with care, not resentment. He doesn't throw it away. He doesn't keep it close. He locks it behind steel and key, choosing where it belongs, in the past. The sound of the lock clicking shut is soft but final. This is not bitterness. This is boundary. He walks away without looking back, his hand lighter, his posture steadier. The audience understands that closure doesn't require hatred, only honesty. Daniel doesn't erase the marriage. He releases it, back on patrol. Daniel pauses at the edge of the border as the horizon stretches endlessly before him. The sky is clear now, vast and open, holding possibilities instead of storms. He breathes deeply, grounded, present in his body in a way he hasn't been for years. This place once represented isolation. Now it represents continuity. Daniel looks forward, not back, and speaks softly, not to anyone else, but to himself. I didn't lose my marriage, he says, voice steady. A beat. Then the truth that carries the entire story. I survived it. The words are not defensive. They are earned. Survival here means growth, boundaries, self-respect. The camera lingers as Daniel continues walking, one step at a time, framed against the rising sun. No music swells. No applause cues the ending. Just quiet strength. Fade out. The story doesn't end in heartbreak. It ends in endurance transformed into wisdom.